wanna go write a million songs if that's the way to be. I'll write a classic to beat them all and go down in history. I'll be the one to reach the stars, but only if you're with me tonight. Is that all?
Hello again and welcome to episode 39 of Main Street Martin and the final part of our latest Princess cruise to Portugal, Spain and France.
I'm gonna go write a million songs if that's the way to be. I'll write a classic to beat them all and go down in history. I'll be the one to reach the stars, but only if you're with me tonight. 'Cause that'll be the light. 'Cause that'll be the light. 'Cause that'll be the light.
In previous episodes we've cruised on the Regal and Enchanted Princess ships and provided 2 Mediterranean cruise series in places like Marseille, Rome, Naples and Athens. Don't forget you can still check out all of the previous episodes including our cruise trips right here on this channel. And if you enjoy any of the videos, please make sure you click on the like button, ring the notification bell to be informed of any future videos, and it would really help the channel if you could subscribe.
Good morning from our penultimate port stop in Bilbao alongside P&O Cruises Aurora. A little bit overcast, but we're told it's going to be sunny later today. Highs of around 26 degrees Celsius.
Now so far in this series we've had choppy sea days, our stop in Cadiz was cancelled because of the bad weather, and we got soaked on rainy days in Lisbon and Gibraltar. But then we arrived in Spain and found sunshine in Cartagena and Malaga with some fabulous highlights of the trip so far. In this episode we start in the northern Spanish city of Bilbao, gateway to the Basque Country, before finishing in the small French port of Verdon, from where it's possible to visit Bordeaux. And at the end of this episode we'll take a look at some of the highlights of this trip for us. Bilbao is definitely a much bigger city than both Malaga and Cartagena, and for that reason it's a little more challenging to get around to see everything you want to see in one day, although there is a very effective public transport system. There was a time when tourism wasn't a big part of Bilbao's economy, but Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum literally put the city on the map. It also offers impressive 19th century buildings and bridges and is the gateway to the Basque Country. It's perched on the hills above the Nervion River, and it really is a thriving port and the commercial heart of the Basque Country. It dates back to the Middle Ages and was granted city status by Don Diego López de Haro, Lord of Biscay, back in 1300. But it was the 19th century and the Industrial Revolution that cemented Bilbao's economic status. Among the city's charms are the jumble of bars and restaurants found in Siete Calles, the city's old quarter. The Gran Via and the Alameda Maceredo are graceful, wide 19th century boulevards, and while the port still bustles with maritime traffic, it's the Guggenheim Museum that really symbolises Bilbao's cultural vitality in the 21st century. This is the 100-year-old Church of San José de la Montaña. It belongs to the Augustinian order and was built thanks to the generosity of the people of Bilbao. Since its foundation, it's been visited by parishioners as well as travellers, merchants, and today many tourists. Now, in terms of the history of the place, the presence of the Order of St. Augustine in the town of Bilbao dates back to 1515 with the construction of a convent on the site where the current Bilbao Town Hall stands. The stay of the Augustinians in Bilbao lasted for more than 4 centuries. But it was in 1836, at the outbreak of the First Carlist War, that the Augustinian community had to abandon the town. But in January 1900, the bishop granted permission for the Augustinian fathers to return to Bilbao, first occupying a floor with a semi-public chapel, and in a short time the community grew and became involved in the social and spiritual life of the inhabitants of the village. And for all these reasons, it was planned to build a temple and a residence. And in 1905, the land for its construction was acquired thanks to the donations from numerous members of the Bilbao community. It really is well worth a visit. Although lots of changes have been made since building work began in 1906, it was inaugurated in March 1918, and in 1970 it became a parish church. And then finally, more recently in January 2020, the facade was completely remodelled. Bilbao's Guggenheim Museum has been described as the best building of the second half of the 20th century. It's completely transformed the city, putting it on the world map and changing its image. It opened in 1997 and was designed by the American architect Frank Gehry, who, after visiting the city, was very clear about where he wanted to build it: on the banks of the river, on the site of a former timber company. It's spectacular from all angles, whether you're on the river or on the side of the riverbanks themselves or crossing the nearby bridge. It's a fabulous meeting place and has a real buzz about it, and there's much to see inside and out. We decided not to go in because of the limited amount of time we had. If you wander around Bilbao, and the Old Quarter in particular, you'll see architectural landmarks ranging from the Gothic cathedral to Frank Gehry's postmodern masterpiece. And again, don't worry if you don't want to walk all of the time. Public transport, as I mentioned before, is very, very good indeed. There is a hop-on, hop-off bus, and the tram is particularly good as well, and it stops right outside the Guggenheim Museum. And again, there's much more to see, including that 14th century Gothic cathedral, which is a stop for pilgrims travelling to Santiago de Compostela. The Arriaga Theatre is worth looking at, as well as the Plaza Nueva and the Bilbao Ria, which separates the old and the new city. And the new district is home to chic boutiques, perfume stores, cafes and restaurants. As always on trips like this, we enjoy wandering around cities like Bilbao on our own, discovering everything from museums and churches to parks, concert halls and even football stadiums. This is the stadium in San Mamés, the home of Athletic Bilbao. It was originally conceived with planning permission back in 2004. It had approval in 2006. But when it opened, it didn't really reach full capacity until around 2014. And there's an interesting story because in a symbolic display, a piece of turf and a brick from the facade of the old stadium were removed and carried to the construction site by a human chain, including famous players along the way. Next, we were off to our final port in France, Verdon-sur-mer. But before we head off to France, we took the shuttle bus back to the port in Bilbao and had just enough time with a short walk to explore the area around a small harbour with a beach and some magnificent mansions, obviously the home of many rich and famous people. Verdon is on the south bank of the Garonne estuary. It's the gateway to what's arguably the finest wine-producing region in the world, the vineyards surrounding Bordeaux. It's worth pointing out that it's a good 4-hour round trip from Verdon to Bordeaux and back, and so we decided not to do that. We didn't really fancy sitting on a bus for 4 hours and having a limited amount of time in Bordeaux. So, like many others, we took the shuttle bus to Soulac-sur-mer, which is a beach resort town at the northern limit of the Medoc Peninsula, north of Bordeaux. In fact, it's the most northern of the extensive string of beaches that run along much of the Aquitaine coast, all the way down south to the border with Spain and the so-called Côte d'Argent. That's not surprising that the seaside-related activities dominate here. They are the big attraction for visitors. You'll find no less than 4 sandy beaches to enjoy, extending over several kilometres. And what's more, the sandy beaches are also very, very popular with surfers. It's definitely tourism that drives this town. You'll find numerous bars, clubs, restaurants and shops for the benefit of tourists. Many of these are based along the principal street through Soulac-sur-mer, the Rue de la Plage. But you'll also see lots of small 19th century villas built in the years after the train line first arrived here in 1874, bringing visitors from Bordeaux. It's interesting to compare the style of the villas here in Soulac-sur-mer with those at Arrachon further south, where the villas were built at the same time, but they are much grander. And there's a beautiful small church here too. We never regretted the decision not to go to Bordeaux, and we had a lovely final day on our cruise, both in Verdon and in Soulac-sur-mer, and we certainly recommend it. It was really relaxing and a nice way to finish the cruise. And despite the weather, we thoroughly enjoyed this cruise. There were some real highlights in the places we visited. We particularly enjoyed Cartagena and Malaga and the pretty small French town of Soulac-sur-mer. For the ship itself, we were impressed overall. There were highs and lows in all areas, as you'd expect. Some of the entertainment was exceptionally good, whilst others were not quite as good. Likewise, the food in the buffet restaurant was uninspiring, repetitive and lacking in choice compared to other Princess cruises we've taken. But the main restaurants were exceptionally good, with impeccable service, and although we didn't feel it was appropriate to video in the main restaurants, I did take some pictures to give you an idea. Having had problems in the past with the medallion and the app, it was clear that many, if not all of the glitches had been resolved. We ordered food and drink at various places around the ship and to our cabin, and we had no problems at all, and the boarding process itself worked really well too. And that's it for another episode, I'm afraid. Make sure you join me for future episodes because we have more city breaks, holidays and cruises planned. But in the meantime, take a look at the other videos on the channel featuring Caribbean and Mediterranean cruises, plus our visits to eco parks and theme parks in Mexico, the United States and Europe, and you'll also find city breaks in the UK and Europe, with short breaks as well, providing top tips, hints and ideas. And if you enjoy any of the videos, you can really help the channel by clicking on the like button, ringing that notification bell and subscribing. And I hope you can join me next time for episode 40 of Main Street Martin.
I'm gonna go write a million songs if that's the way to be. I'll write a classic to beat them all and go down in history. I'll be the one to reach the stars, but only if you're with me tonight.